Good afternoon, everybody, and this is the Train the Trainer webinar. Beth Ipock with CSI is going to be our presenter today. Beth is the executive strategist at CSI, which is her family-run distribution company. Beth has also been a consistent presenter at the TUG Connects conferences over the year, and she's always done a very good job and gets very high ratings on her presentation. And I think it's also fair to say, Beth, that you've had some very successful employee training programs at your own company. We want to thank you for your presentation today, and go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Gary, and I just really appreciate Gary and Karen and the TUG group for putting these kinds of things together. I mean, what a great benefit for our user group. So thank you guys for taking time out this afternoon to do this. I certainly hope you get some value out of it. At least one thing is my goal. And it is going to be very interactive. So again, if you haven't downloaded those handouts, then you'll want to do that, because as soon as we finish the polling, then we, just so I can get to know you, when there's so many of you, we can't look each other in the eye and get to know each other that way, but through the polling, that's how we'll get to know each other real quickly. So if you haven't taken the first poll, please do that real quickly, which just gives me an idea of how you feel about training. And so far, 70% of you have voted, so come on, the rest of you, hop in. There's nobody who hates it and nobody who thinks they'll never like it, so that's great. And nobody who's doing it just because it's part of the job. 51% of you don't mind, but you'd like to get better, so hopefully that's why you're here today. And 44% really like training others. And 4% of you think you're really the bomb, so I will be trying to figure out who that is and get you to help me today. So that's our first poll, and we're almost done with everybody voting, so we're still at, most of you don't mind but would like to get better. So thanks for joining us, and we're going to get better together today.
Hey, Beth, you might want to publish those results too when you're ready.
Okay, and so I do that by, I'm learning this new tool, you guys. Close it. That's how I do it, right?
Yeah, you close it and then you can publish it.
And share.
Here we go.
Whoops, I hit it, didn't I?
There it is.
Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see those. I can see them in my little thing.
Yeah, we can see them.
You can see them. Okay, let's do another quick poll. And so I have to hide that one. And what I want to know is, what's your role in the organization? That'll help me know who my audience is. We always have a lot of variety at the TUG Connects conferences between IT leaders and staff and customer service folks. And if your answer is not in the list, then put it in chat real quick for me so I'll know who else I've got. So far, lots of IT leaders and staff, a few purchasing. Some general leaders and managers.
That's good. We're up to 85%. You can probably publish.
Okay. Let's close that and share it. All right. So this is who we've got attending today. And let me look and see if there's anybody who chatted anything. Nope, I don't see any other options. Oh yeah, here in the questions, Director of HR, a CFO. Wow, awesome. All of the above, David. Trainer, HR Director, Internal Auditor. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. All right, one more poll to get to know you. And let's try that. I have 4 choices here, and again, use the chat if your option is not there. Mostly what you train on. Mostly what you train on is what we're looking for here. Okay. So lots of software only, which is, this all really applies to everything that you might train on, but I was just curious what kind of things people are having to do. So
we're up to about 80%. You could probably publish that
yep.
too.
Okay. and I'll share that. So 55% software only and soft skills, 26% other. I don't see anything in chat. All right. Am I missing anything? All right. Well, so now we know who's here and a little bit about each other. So my last poll is, how many of you have done some training that you felt like it just didn't take or stick? Sticky training is it's probably a copyrighted thing, so I want to give Barbara Carnes her full due because I didn't come up with that word on my own. So how many of you have, spent time preparing and delivering training and it just really did not benefit your organization in the end very much or not enough? Okay, 87% more than once. Okay, a few of you, I don't think my training has ever been very sticky.
You can
So
probably,
that's where we're,
you
yep,
can
that's where we
publish.
are on that. Okay, so for the most part, everybody's experienced doing training that didn't make a difference in their organization or didn't make enough of a difference to be worth the time in preparation. So today, why is training being sticky important? Because you're looking for more productive employees, and if you're like my organization, you don't have any full-time trainers. Everybody has a full-time job, so every minute that we spend in training has to be worth something. If you have sticky training, you're not having to do it as often, okay? And that gives you more time then for training new things. So those are the things we're looking for, is really making sure that we have an ROI in our training programs. And so what I'm going to walk you through today is a process that we do here at CSI. And so hopefully you can use it, but hopefully you can also get it out to other people who do training in your organization and help them begin presenting the training that is really makes a difference in your organization. All right, here we go. So the first step then is a needs assessment. Okay, so hopefully you have your handout. If you don't, go down to handouts and look for the one called needs assessment. In my thing, it's the bottom one. It's a Word document. What you're going to start with here is, what are the business goals and why are we really even doing this training? What I want you to keep in mind is, if you're the trainer, you're probably not the one who needs to be filling this out. If you're the business leader who needs the training, this is probably for you, okay? Now, the needs assessment gets you to these things. What is the business goal? Who needs the training? And what do the trainees need to be able to do when they're done? Okay? Because if we're not trying to get them to make any actionable changes, then that may be our problem. Now, another thing to download, if you haven't already, is the action verbs, okay? Because after you get your measurable business goal, and if you're a high C style, we do DISC in our organization, for high C style, you are going to have a really hard number putting a percentage on that, increase the sale of this product by 10% in the next 6 months. You're going to have a hard time with that because you can't prove it. Come up with a target, okay? May not be perfect, but come up with a good target of how much more accuracy or that kind of thing that you're looking for. So I'm adjusting my microphone a little bit. Real quickly, before we move on, I want you to think about what topic you want to go forward through today's session with. What is it you're going to think through this process with? It could be something really simple, something you're getting ready to train on, or something you already have and you wish you'd have had this process. Okay, so take 10 seconds to figure out what that topic's going to be. And then, what is your business goal for that training? Why were you wanting to do that training? Why did somebody ask you to do that training? Okay. Then on the form, the who needs this training comes next. So it could be that you have to do other parts of the form first to figure out who. So there's no magic about the order of the form. Just feel free to do it in whatever order makes sense, but you really need your business goal first. Probably the most important part of this form is what behaviors. Again, what do you need them to be able to do? That's why you need the action verb list. Okay, so I want you to pull that out and look at it for a minute, pull it up on your screen. It is easy to write needs assessments when you say we need them to learn or understand. It is not easy to write needs assessments where you say I need them to analyze, I need them to assess, I need them to measure. But those are the kinds of words you need to be using. So look at the words to avoid and make sure you're using, or your requester of your training, because remember, you're typically not writing this, are using these verbs that communicate action, because you're trying to get to different behavior. Okay? All right. So think about that for just a few seconds as you're thinking about the topic you've picked. Okay, we don't have time to do all 6, but you can do that as soon as we get done, okay? The next thing you're going to do is figure out, why aren't these people doing this already, okay? And when I say you, I mean the person who's filling out the form, because it's not necessarily you, okay? Why are the participants not doing this already, okay? And so there are 4 reasons that could be occurring. And one of them is environment. Is it a culture problem? Maybe they just don't have the knowledge. Why don't they have the knowledge? Maybe we haven't trained on it before, okay? Or they're not, we've not had sticky training, so that's why. They don't have the skills. Maybe they didn't come into the workplace with the skill that they need, and that's what they need to develop. Maybe it's a motivation problem. The motivation can be kind of tricky because that can be related to environment, knowledge, or skills. Okay? So once you evaluate those 4 things, then you'll be able to determine whether training's really the answer. Because I bet if I had another poll and said, how many times have people asked you for training, and you said, well, I don't really think that's the answer. This is a way to help them see when training is not really a good answer. So there is a handout. It's the first Adobe thing that says TUG Train the Trainer is training. Download that, and it'll help you walk through that a little bit better. Okay, so is training needed? This I did in a mind map, and notice it has those 4 things: environment, knowledge, motivation, and skills. Okay, and then it goes a little bit further. Is the problem cultural? Is it because of a leader, or is it because of other people in the department's behavior, or someone else in the company's behavior, which of course rolls back up to a leadership problem? Okay. Is it a knowledge problem? Should the knowledge really be memorized, or is there a better option? Because in our organization, for inside sales, for instance, there's no way to memorize all the product knowledge that's needed. There's no way. So we can't teach all of it, so some of it needs to be stored somewhere besides people's brains, okay? Is it a motivation problem? Are people having problems at home? Is the pay too low, and the in the department. Maybe that is an environmental issue, but think through that. And then skills. Maybe the person just really does not have the skills. Okay? All right. So I want you to think through that for a moment and write a couple of things in on your training needs assessment there. Gary, I'm getting some background noise somewhere. If you could look into that.
I'm not hearing any myself, Beth, unless it's coming from me. What kind of background noise?
It might be
Okay,
from
I'll
you.
try it. I'll
I
try
don't
to
know.
be quieter.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know. All right. So if you looked further down the process, then you can see that, for instance, on environment, is the problem cultural? Yes. Okay, then training's not an option, or it's not the answer, unless it's a leadership training, which is probably not what they brought you to do. Is the problem cultural? No. Then the next question is, well, can we solve whatever the problem is? Okay. All right, knowledge. Where should that knowledge be stored? Is it a memory issue in which training might be helpful, or is it a job aid issue? Maybe it's something where we just need a good job aid for them to access when they need that knowledge, when they need to access it. Okay. Motivation, is it low? Are there some things that we can do to help motivate? Maybe simulations? I don't know. And then again, skills, that just depends on what your worker needs to do their job. Okay? Now, when you look at this, you'll see that training is most effective when the problem is solvable as far as an environment is concerned, when a job aid is actually, that star should be on memory, not on job aid. When a realistic simulation would help motivate, that's where that star should be. And even where skills, I notice all of a sudden that my star is grayed out. That's supposed to be orange by skills, so that's where that should be. So those are the 4 areas where training is most effective, and if it's one of those other things, you need to evaluate with this person requesting the training, is that, what can we do instead of a training intervention, is what we sometimes say in the training lingo. All right, so let me give you a sample, if I can figure out how to do this. I want to, oh, my stuff went away. Okay. I want to give you a sample of a mind map I did for this. Gary, can you see my PDF there?
Yes, I can see it.
Whoops. Okay, great. Okay, so this is my needs assessment for TUG Connects. And of course I had to do some guessing because I couldn't interview people and say, why do you need this training? But so the goals were to increase IT leaders' confidence in their ability to provide meaningful training and provide tools to improve their efficiency. Those were my goals. And then these are the needs assessment, what I wanted you to be able to do. Effectively complete a needs assessment, determine the proper intervention, determine whether a job aid is appropriate, and increase the manager's involvement in training. So we should get to all of those by the time we finish today. When I did the environment, knowledge, skills, motivation over here, that came from, I assumed that since everybody signed up for the class that the environment's supportive, so it's not an environment problem. The knowledge is probably where the issue lies, because often IT leaders, for instance, are not necessarily users of the software but are responsible for software training. So that might be it. Knowledge of back-end technical things might be more their speed. So the skills needed might be presentation skills. There might be a need for that might be going there. And then motivation, I think, you know, people sign up for these kinds of classes because they want success in their organization and they enjoy professional development opportunities and they want tools to teach somebody. So the motivation for this particular type of thing is very high. You may find that you're looking at motivation for whatever your topic is a little bit different there. Okay. I feel the need to maybe see if anybody has a question before we move away from this kind of beginning. So if you've got a question, type it in just real quickly while I move to the next slide. And Gary, if you can watch those and see if we have any.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any right now.
Not seeing. Okay, perfect.
Did the background noise go away?
Yes,
Okay,
sure
good.
did. Thank you. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show is how that then translates from your needs assessment. Let's say you decide you are going to do training, and that is the intervention you're going to provide. Then I wanted to show a sample of an training plan that I got from doing that. Well, shoot, I don't have that open. So I won't take the time to do that right now, but if you would like to have a sample training plan, please let me know. And Gary, I forgot to make a slide for my contact information, but we'll get that out so that you can contact me and I can get you that. So one of the things that you'll find as you go through this process is that a job aid is a great solution. Because again, I don't know how many A+ people I have today, but for instance, one of the things we have a challenge with is inside sales knowing when a inventory is allocated, when it's committed, and why in the world orders are not printing or doing something else. And so what we developed was a job aid that walks them through their questions. We were training it every year and people still weren't able to articulate the difference between allocate, commit, and order statuses and types. And so we finally landed on a really neat job aid that I am going to show you that just they can access in our intranet called the Shed, which is where we keep our tools, and they simply start it and then they pick their question. So when will this item be committed is their question. And it tells them. If you're entering the order, there's enough, it's going to be committed right then. If that doesn't answer their question, then they say, nope, I need more help. So then they have a question, is the item allocated? Well, no, it's not. Well, it's never going to commit if it's not allocated, so it must be on a quote. Okay? How do I find out when it will be allocated? Is it a special order? So you can see how that works. It's just very interactive. They can always go back to the start if they got somewhere they didn't want to be. It's just a PDF document with a bunch of links. So it was not complicated it didn't take any hugely special skills to develop, but has become a really useful tool. And so just an example of sometimes it's just a one-page laminated thing they keep at their desk about, who takes this kind of call, who takes this kind of call, who takes this kind of call. We have those at our front desk rather than them having to memorize it and it changes all the time. So I hope that's helpful to you to see how a job aid may be a better tool and how they can really be a simple tool. Okay, now this part gets a little more challenging because some of you are leaders and some of you are not. Leaders, you're going to get your toes stepped on. those of you who are not leaders, I want to encourage you to step up and be willing to go to your leader and say, I need help, okay? One of the things that has been researched a lot is the value of getting leaders involved in the training process. So what I want you to do is look at this grid, and I want you to think about, if I were ranking 1 through 9, with 1 being the most important and 9 being the least important, and I'm thinking about the role, the person, behavior before training, during training, and after the training, which role would you say would get the number 1 for their behavior, either before, during, and after, wherever you think that slot fits? Is the trainer's preparation before the training number 1, or is it the trainee during training, making sure they're participating? So if you would take a few seconds to kind of number in your head whose role is most important, 1 through 9, in each of those before, during, and after. So let me give you a clue as to what's not the top 3, just in case those you had in the top 3, okay? So basically the trainer has no responsibility once the training's done, unless, you know, they're the leader too, obviously, but and the trainee's preparation before is minimal, unless it has a prerequisite of some kind, I suppose. All right, here's how it plays out, and this is not my assumptions, this is research. Shows that the manager's participation in the process before the training occurs is the absolute top driver of stickiness in the training. So that means me taking Floyd and saying, hey Floyd, your training is tomorrow, it's on blah blah blah, and here's why that's really important to our department and to the organization. That is the top thing that will make training stick. Number 2 is the trainer's preparation, in other words, being ready, having it all together, not fumbling around. And then the manager after the training saying, hey Floyd, how was training? What'd you learn? What do you think you can do with that? Those are the top 3 things that are going to make training really make a difference in your organization, and you guys get the return on investment for your trainees' time and for your trainers' time. I don't know how much time you spend on preparation, but the average typically is 8 hours of preparation to 1 hour of training presentation. It's a lot of time. So I present this to my leadership team regularly to remind them how critical their role is. And so if you're leaders, I hope you're getting the message. And if you're not a leader in your organization, but you're a trainer, I hope you will find a good way to access those leaders and say, hey, this is really, really important. And I forgot to share the slides, but we can get those to you as well so that you would have this to share with them. Okay, so we have plenty of time for some questions, and because that's the next slide, but before that, I'd like you to share what will keep you from using any of these tools. And if you say, these are ridiculous, I don't like them, then that's fine with me, I can handle it. But I really want you to participate. So in the chat, hop in there and say what will keep you from using these tools. Is it time? Is it you have a terrible boss? Is it? And let me look at some of those and try to help you with some strategies. Okay, who's going to be first? Chat it up.
Can you see the results, Beth?
I'm not seeing anything in chat. Should I be looking at questions?
Yeah, go to questions.
Which I don't now see.
Okay. I'll read them off to you, though. The first two say time and time.
Time and time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing is the third. Managers
Okay, good.
buy-in. Asking folks to complete the needs assessment will be difficult. Some of them we are already using.
Great.
Limited time to prepare. A couple more that just say time.
Okay.
Another manager buy-in. Often I have to work through the process before I can develop the training. Finding time to take sales personnel away from their jobs. That's a good one.
Yeah.
A large number of branches to reach. Now, do you ever do training on GoToMeeting or anything like that?
Okay, so good question, and I'll answer that one, and then we'll talk about getting leader buy-in because that seemed to be a big concern. I do. We have branches in California and North Carolina, and so we definitely do some remote training. We don't have the training module like this where you can poll and have chat and those kinds of things, but typically it's just 2 or 3 on the phone, and so that's much more manageable. But yeah, let me encourage you to utilize these tools. I mean, I don't know what the GoToWebinar or the GoToMeeting charges. WebEx for a year is, you know, $700, and so if you use it 10 times, it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And we use it for sales presentations as well to customers. So, so I would recommend one of those tools for training because they can be pretty effective. Let's talk about leader buy-in for a minute. That seems to be a common concern. And so what I would do is I would start with your leader, okay? And I would present them, particularly the slide that shows how important it is that managers have buy-in, and try to get their buy-in. Hopefully you have good rapport with your leader. Start with some pain. Is there any pain in your organization over the lack of effectiveness of training or the time that it takes you to train? Because, you know, if it's taking you a lot of time and it's not worth it and it's keeping you from doing other things that are more effective for the organization, then those are things to bring to your manager. Hey, I see myself spending all this time training, nothing happens, nothing changes. Is that really what we want to be doing? How do we change that? Well, we change it by making sure we're training on the right things and then getting leaders to promote training. If you have good rapport with your leader and then they have good rapport within their leadership group, then it would take time. It will take time, I promise. But don't hesitate to lead up and encourage. But if you can bring some pain and even some dollars of the kind of cost that's getting wasted in your organization, I bet you can get some action. So I hope that encourages you. If you want me to talk through that conversation with you, don't hesitate to call me, and I'll help you work on that dialogue. Time, I don't know how to get you any more time, except that if you're not spending time on stuff that isn't effective, then that will save you time for doing good training and time for taking this needs assessment. And yes, I know at least one person said getting somebody to do this at first will be a difference. I get your leaders buy-in on that too, and try to get him or her to push that in the organization. We are starting to push this with our vendors. You know, they want to come in and do a dog and pony show, and really we don't have time for that unless they're going to provide some actionable behaviors. And so you can imagine the pushback to vendors who I say, we need to know what you want people to be able to do when they get done. It can be done though. It can be done. So it takes time. I want you to encourage you to not expect results immediately necessarily, but when I see you at TUG next time, I'm hoping you're going to be able to say, hey, we're making some progress.
Let me read
Okay,
it. I can
let's
read
go
a
to
couple more.
Q&A, and yeah.
There's a couple more
Okay, go ahead.
things that looked interesting. One of them was person requiring the training does not think that they need it. Another one was consistency if there's more than one training session. And then somebody made a comment that said, we have been using 15-minute webinars. They appear very useful. We do 2 sessions twice a day on the same topic. This allows for staff to man the phones and others to attend training. Getting the people that need the training to attend is sometimes difficult.
So that sounds like your leader conversation again. And what was that first one you read that time, Gary?
The person that needs the training
yeah.
does not think that they need it.
Right. So that's a leader thing too. Because if they're not getting coached on the problem, if they haven't been told by their leader this is an area of concern, then yeah, it's going to be an issue for sure. So that's why that leader thing up front is absolutely critical. Absolutely. I love that 15-minute webinar thing. What a great idea. Everybody do that. Okay, Q&A.
Well, so one person said, what if the staff has a do-it-yourself syndrome?
Okay, so that sounds like is that a cultural issue, environment? So the staff has that because their leader allows them to have that. I'm really on the leaders today. I guess you noticed that.
She doesn't clarify that, but
right. Yep.
But Diane, if you want to raise your hand, I'll be happy to unmute you if you want to go any farther with that. Another question for folks that do not think they need training. That's more of a comment. Management needs to make it a part of the performance appraisal.
Yes. Yes, they do. They sure do. But so I've also been in HR for 15 years, and so from a performance management standpoint, that is not an annual event. Performance management is sometimes daily, but it's a regular ongoing conversation. And so that's what I hear in some of these comments and questions is the leader is not managing that person's performance on a regular basis. So they are either don't know they've got deficiencies and the leader's waiting to tell them in that next appraisal. But yes, if you have noted it in an appraisal that this was a need and next year it's still a need and you didn't attend training, so here we are at the leader again, because really if it was a goal to get this thing down within 6 months, we shouldn't be waiting till next year to look back and see if he had done that training in the whole year. We should have done it when the goal was due. So
here's another question. Is there a value in sending out a tip or hint of the day, something that helps remind people of a method or a shortcut they may not be utilizing?
Ooh, well, I love those. We have a thing called Tuesday's Tidbits, so we do it once a week. But daily, if you can come up with the content, absolutely. I do recommend putting the topic in the subject line because, you have Excel users who aren't ERP users. You have Outlook users that aren't Excel or ERP users. You have ERP users typically who use everything. So CRM, is another thing that some people use, some people don't. So if you put the topic of the day or week or whatever in that email, I think you will find more access. The other thing we do is we keep those on our intranet so that they can be searched on later. Because, for instance, an Excel filtering thing or not filtering but filling, I've used that before, but not this advanced way, and so I read it, but 3 weeks later when I needed it, I didn't remember, but I could go to my intranet, the shed, and type Excel fill and be reminded. So great idea. Yep.
Well, somebody has their hand raised. It's Deborah Bird, but Deborah, I see that your phone is grayed out, which means you probably did not enter your PIN number. So if on your phone you can hit #154#, it should give me the ability to unmute you. Other than that, going back to the do-it-yourself syndrome, what if the staff has do-it-yourself syndrome? The further comment there was DIY is more about I don't have time to train or be trained.
Oh, do it yourself, meaning I would rather do it myself than train people. Got it. Okay, I think I missed that the first time. Well, if I were that person's leader, because if somebody's doing that, it's their responsibility. If I were that person's leader, so if you're talking about the company president, that's a problem. But other than that, figure a way to show what that's costing the company either now or in the future for this person to be doing it all themselves. I mean, frankly, I'm trying to get ready to retire, and I don't want to leave CSI in a bind, so I'm trying to train people on everything, but some people are really curatorial and you know, not comfortable that people know what they do. So from the leader standpoint, they need to be helping them recognize how important it is for the organization and how they could do something else with their time if somebody else would take certain things off of them. We've been able to show that over the years. Well, hey, if you weren't the only one who could do that, you might get to do something else, even more fun. So those are some things I think of there.
Okay. I don't see any other questions.
Okay. Well, so Gary, what's the best way for me to get them the slides, for you to email them out?
Well, anybody that is interested in getting in touch with Beth can simply email me. My email address is gbrown@theusergroup.org. I'm happy to direct all inquiries and respond to any emails that come in.
Okay, great. And I would love to visit or chat with anybody, so contact Gary and then I'll get with you. Thank you guys so much for today. I hope you got something out of it that you can use, and I would love to hear back. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and see you at the next TUG Connects.
Thank you very much for your time today, Beth. It was very valuable. We appreciate your involvement with TUG.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a great day.